Hello, I'm Wendy Wilson, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Realizing Potential. Today I have with me a gentleman who is full of energy, and it makes sense in terms of his chosen profession, but has demonstrated great commitment, not only to his role as an attorney, but certainly to this community, and he is none other than Roosevelt Carter II.
The second.
The second.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you.
Thanks
for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I should have done this a long time ago, but now's the perfect time. Tell the viewers who may not be familiar with your matriculation and where you graduated from and what your majors were. Where did you start off from? You mentioned Lee County.
Yes, my family, we're all from Lee County, Georgia.
Okay.
Grew up in a very rural farming community.
Okay.
My father's a pastor here in Albany. I have two brothers. They're also pastors here in Albany. I'm sort of considered the black sheep of the family.
No,
but no, it's fine.
Okay.
I graduated from Lee County High School in 1990, and after graduating from Lee County High, I attended Howard University in Washington, D.C.
Yes,
ma'am.
Why did you choose Howard? You're in Atlanta is the mecca for HBCUs. If you wanted to go that route, did you want to just get away from home? Was it something special about Howard?
I want to get away from home.
Okay.
I'd always grown up wanting to go to Morehouse, and I got accepted to Morehouse, but I'm a big old school hip hop fan, and at that time a lot of the rappers and rap artists and music genres were going toward Howard University.
Sure.
And I kept hearing wonderful things about Howard University, and I said, well, I got to do it. And my dad wanted me to go to Morehouse because it was closer to home.
Sure.
And then my mom wanted me to attend Albany State, which was really close to home.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad my parents decided to let me go to Howard.
Good. Tell us a little bit about your Howard experience.
I majored in political science. It's just a beautiful campus, a beautiful school. I may be a little biased about my love for Howard University, but I learned so much there. A lot of great friends who are gone on to become doctors, lawyers, mayors, I guess people well known in the community, celebrities and things of that nature. But what I loved about Howard was it was just a different culture versus from what I learned living here in Lee County and Albany.
Sure.
And went there for 4 years and received my Bachelor of Arts in Political Science.
Great. I love Howard too. Have visited the campus many times, and it is a very beautiful campus.
Yes,
and you are in the company of some very great alumni of Howard University, so you certainly should be proud of that, and I know they are certainly proud of you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
but and you're absolutely right. The culture there is just absolutely great, and I think it has to certainly do with the area that it's in. It's in D.C., and that's a great connection within itself.
Right. Another reason why I wanted to attend Howard was being a political science, I grew up wanting to be a lawyer.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 12 years old because I wanted to run for office. I wanted to be the first black governor of Georgia.
Okay.
And being in Washington, D.C., with politicians and the president and all the history, what better place to study political science than in Washington, D.C., and then get a historically black college experience with Howard.
Absolutely. That's great. That makes sense. Is there one pivotal moment in your Howard experience that stands out? Something that is memorable that you'll always treasure? Was it meeting someone or a class or just that moment in time when you're like, I made the right decision coming here? Probably
the orientation.
Okay.
Probably the orientation, meeting different. At Howard, the funny thing about Howard is you never know who's showing up on campus. It could be an entertainer, it could be an actor, it could be a civil rights activist, it could be even the president. At the time when I was at Howard, it was President Clinton, who's been at Howard a few times. And of course, you just never know. So there's not one pivotal moment, there are a lot of moments. And that's when I knew this was the place to be.
Excellent.
For me.
Yes. It appears that it has served you very well. So then you made the decision after that. Law school was certainly a part of that entire design. You knew you wanted to be a lawyer at a very young age. Why Texas Southern?
Well, Texas Southern, there's a common thread between Texas Southern University and Howard University, and that common thread would be Justice Thurgood Marshall. Yes. The law school at Texas Southern University, which is in Houston, is named after Justice Marshall, and there's a lot of history with Justice Marshall concerning Texas Southern University. Back when that law school was established in 1947, it was established as a separate but equal school, meaning that this is a law school for blacks to go to, because a man by the name of Heman Sweat tried to attend the University of Texas Law School at Austin, but it was all white, and he was denied admission because of his skin color. Justice Marshall represented Mr. Sweat to get him admitted into the University of Texas at Austin, despite the colored law school being created. It was actually known as the Texas State University for Negroes at that time. But the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Mr. Sweat should be allowed admission into the University of Texas at Austin. And it's a famous U.S. Supreme Court case called Sweat versus Painter.
Okay.
And one of the issues that Justice Marshall argued, well, at that time he was an attorney, one of the issues that he argued was that despite having this separate but equal law school established, the law school was really more like a bookmobile or a law school on wheels. The school did not have adequate building facilities, adequate teachers. Okay. It did not have all the amenities that the University of Texas at Austin had.
I see.
So with that court decision, students, the law school was required to become a better building with facilities, libraries, and a full-time staff and faculty.
Excellent.
And the law school was later named by it was named after Justice Marshall in the 70s.
Thank you for that history lesson.
Yes, ma'am.
I did not know that connection between the two.
Yes, ma'am. And Justice Marshall, he was a graduate of Howard University Law School.
Yes.
I forgot to mention that.
That's okay. That's okay. Appreciate you sharing that.
Yes, ma'am.
Great connection, and I can certainly see the affinity for both of those institutions. Let's speak to our students who may be matriculating, whether it be Albany State or any viewer that is deciding to pursue higher ed and in that process now, and has made the decision, I do also want to go to law school. Give them some advice. I think oftentimes, certainly with media, and then certainly all the television shows out there that depict law firms, and it is such a glamorous life. Speak to the reality of it and what they need to put in it to be successful attorneys.
Well, if I could tell anyone, and I get this question a lot, and I'm glad you asked, I would tell you to study. Okay. Not just study hard, but study smart. It does not matter what your major is, or where you get your degree, as far as your bachelor's degree. I just study hard, make sure your grades are wonderful, because law school's admissions will judge you on your grades. Also, you have to take the LSAT, the law school admissions test. And my advice on taking that test is to, if you can afford it, take a study guide or a study course or a practice course. It's been a while since I've taken the LSAT, so I don't know what's out there now. Okay. And I didn't use any internet or computers, where everything now is online. But you definitely want to practice the test before you take the test. Okay. And I mean, practice it as, for example, like a basketball player would practice before the game, and that could be weeks or months of preparation. And then you should be ready to take the test.
Wonderful. And it's interesting, and thank you for using that comparison of a basketball player. So many times our young people, I cannot do this, or I'm struggling in math, or I'm struggling in whatever core subject, but they are stellar on the basketball court or on the football field, and so they never compress the two or apply. That they're very similar in many instances in terms of what you do often or what you do most is what you do best.
Right.
And so it's just making a commitment and practicing, as you alluded to earlier.
Because we're told, and I dabbled in middle school basketball.
Okay.
And, I wasn't a star player, but I think a lot of us are taught that we practice football, we practice basketball. Well, we can definitely practice taking standardized testing.
Sure.
Whether it's the LSAT or whatever graduate or professional school test, that standardized test there has to be, or even to some extent the bar exam.
Right.
If you attend law school and graduate from law school, the key to for me, in my opinion, passing the bar exam is practice, practice, and then when you don't want to practice some more.
Practice some more. I love that. I love that. That's just so important, especially to our young people. And you mentioned that you had dabbled in basketball in middle school and decided that maybe that's not for me.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and so many of us are still under the illusion that we're going to be the next Shaquille O'Neal, or I can't think of a famous football player. You can see I didn't do sports much either, but nonetheless, and that's just, we have such a narrow focus and direction, and we lose sight of the fact that the chances of you being the next Shaquille O'Neal are slim to none. But being a great, or another Roosevelt Carter is the second, is quite possible if you apply yourself and practice.
Well, I agree with you, but here's the thing: don't be Roosevelt Carter the second. Be better.
Be better. Absolutely.
Be better. Or
absolutely.
Be you.
Right. But it's important that, you're right, be you. But it's always wonderful to have somebody to identify with, to emulate. And you're certainly going to do the best masterful you that you can.
Yes, ma'am.
But sometimes we need that guide, as you had with your, decisions to pursue Howard and Texas Southern with Thurgood Marshall. And I'm sure there's some other individuals that you will share with us very shortly. But it is the key. It's to practice, practice, practice. And now you have your own practice. Tell us a little bit about when you established that and what you specialize in.
Well, usually the State Bar of Georgia has rules about using the word specialty, so I have to be very careful.
Please correct me.
Oh, no. It's, I know we use the term in common, but sometimes with the State Bar, terms mean a lot more than just common, regular usage. But mostly I practice criminal defense law.
Okay.
I also handle family law, and as well as personal injury law. But mostly, unfortunately, there's been a major upswing in handling criminal defense cases. I started my practice in 2000. I passed the bar in 2000, and there were no. I shipped my resume around to different law firms, different government entities, and unfortunately, no one was interested. And I met with a lawyer. This was my last law interview, and the lawyer looked at me and he said, "Why don't you just start your own practice, man?" And I said, "Well, I don't know anything." And he said, "I know you don't know anything, but I'll help you."
Oh, wow.
And that lawyer, Mark Phillips, if you're watching, hey, Mark.
We'll get Mark a copy of this taping.
I'll tell Mark.
Yeah.
And the rest, I guess, is history.
Wonderful.
And hung my own shingle, and we've been doing it ever since.
Outstanding. That's great. That's great. And what that says to me is that Mark saw something in you to say, you can do this. Yeah, you don't need to work under someone for a while. And now is the time to do it and to make it happen.
And I still bug Mark from time to time.
Well, good. Look, he put that offer out there. I would too. That's great. And I'm sure that's a great contributor towards your success.
Yes, ma'am.
You said something that I thought was interesting, very saddening, but interesting. Let's speak about that in terms of that there has been a great need for you to then focus on, or people requiring your services because of obviously having got into some criminal activity, and then leading to, again, having to call attorney Roosevelt Carter. And we can come up with all kinds of reasons as to why they find themselves in those situations, but please speak to those young people in particular, how one bad decision can have a ripple and a lifelong effect in terms of what you may decide you want to do. They may want to decide to be an attorney one day, but because of that poor decision that you made, difficulty on the horizon of achieving those goals. Speak to that, please.
Ironically, you had mentioned that just this week, I represented a young college student. I won't say what school that student attended.
Sure.
And I did the case pro bono. I did it for free because he was a young student. He was, I think, maybe a semester away from graduating.
Wow.
And he found himself into some legal trouble, which would probably ruin or jeopardize his career or even his chance of obtaining a degree. And he's just that close, so close to getting his degree, and worked it out to where the charges, if he does a couple of things, may get dismissed. Now he was very thankful, and especially because he didn't have to pay, but he was very thankful because he gets another chance, and not everyone is that fortunate to get another chance. So if I can talk to students, because usually when I talk to a student or a young person, the chances of them turning their life around, it might be too late. So the goal is to try to talk to them now, and I thank you for the format, to tell students, one mistake, whether it's partying, you get a little drunk, or you think smoking a little marijuana or whatever, or doing different things, you have to think and control yourself, because the way the laws are written now is to the point where the laws are written to punish you and not give you a chance to give you a second chance.
Right. And I don't think, maybe it's just not doing our homework and researching and have a full understanding of, again, that entire ripple effect. But it affects you in terms of voting and applying for jobs. I don't know a job application that exists nowadays. It does not ask, have you been convicted of a crime or a felony? And I told them, the process of elimination is critical. And when you're on the other side of the table and you have this daunting effort of looking through all of these applications, then I have to establish some criteria as to, I want to minimize this pile. And so if that's checked, that's an easy no, and then I can decrease my pile. And they may be the person who can, then find the cure for cancer or even the common cold. But because of that one mistake or poor decision that you made, again, it halts and your life in many instances.
And I believe the other thing that now with social media, with your Facebook or your Twitter or whatever else is out there, and I'm a Facebook junkie. I'll admit it.
I see out there.
My wife is like, oh, he's on Facebook again. Stop. But even with Facebook, you have to be careful what you post.
Absolutely.
Because employers, maybe even admissions, as far as school admissions,
You're right.
people can look you up on Facebook, and if you have pictures of yourself and you got a cup in your hand, and it could be a cup of water.
Sure.
But I might think it might be some alcohol or
That's
vodka
right.
or something. And
That's right.
so you have to be careful what you post on Facebook or Twitter, what pictures you like to present, because it's out there for everyone to see, and you never know who's looking, and they could judge whether you get a job or whether you get admitted into school based on what you post. So,
Sure.
So please be careful.
Oh, indeed. And it's so serious now. I have my best friend is in Baltimore, and she works for an insurance company.
Yes.
And they have, in fact, for the last 2 years, hired interns. And their specific goal is to go out and befriend people who are taking advantage or receiving disability insurance. And so I will then befriend you when you're a recipient of this disability insurance. And if you happen to post where you've had this major, back injury and you cannot work, but I have pictures of you. You've posted pictures lifting boxes and on a ladder.
You're dancing at a party.
There you go. We got you. We got you. And so it has reached that level now.
Yes, ma'am.
So, there are many benefits of social media, but, the downside can, have a lasting impact. That little innocent decision to, let me post this. And I always hear people say all the time, I'm not friends with everybody, or I'm not friends with my boss, but it's so easy to go and access that information. You don't know who is friends with your boss.
Very, very much so.
So
Very
that
much
is
so.
important. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I gave you a little homework assignment, and I asked you to identify someone on a national scale that has impacted your life. And I know you have someone wonderful to share with us. Who would that be? And it could be more than one person.
Oh, we don't have that much time.
We don't have that much time? Carved out some extra time just for you. Have at it.
Well, I don't know where to begin. And you say on a national scale, obviously.
Or someone that our viewers would be familiar with.
Right. Obviously, my parents.
Okay.
Because they're going to watch. And if I don't say them, they'll.
I know.
They'll want a refund of some of the money they've given me over the
Invested
years.
in you.
Exactly. Obviously, Justice Marshall.
Okay.
A lot of his quotes and his opinions, I just felt that they were in line with my views. I can't think of anybody else. I'm going to be honest with you.
That's a good one, though.
I think Justice Marshall would have to be, probably, and that's just because of all the contributions as far as civil rights litigation.
Sure.
Because even though I do criminal defense I consider it is a part of civil rights.
Okay.
Because someone's rights could be taken away from them, their freedom could be taken away from them, and I'm there to ensure that one due process is served upon them, and to ensure that they're treated fairly, and that those who need the most help get help the most.
Very good. I think that's an excellent choice. He was definitely a trailblazer in so many different areas. Now that book, we were talking about where we first met some years ago, and then we clicked, and then how we connected with our love for books, and one in particular.
Well, it's a book called The United Independent Compensatory Code. It is a textbook workbook on dealing with racism and white supremacy.
Okay.
And the book is written by a gentleman out of Washington, D.C. by the name of Neely Fuller, Jr. And he basically just for years had dealt with the issue of how do we deal with racism in America. And he just sat down one day, decided to just write notes, and those notes were turned into a book.
Okay.
And a doctor by the name of Frances Cress Welsing, who was a Howard alumna.
Yes.
She picked up his theory on race and created in her book the ISIS or the ISIS paper. Some say ISIS, some say ISIS, and it's a paper about racism, white supremacy, and she did it from a psychological standpoint because she's a psychiatrist.
Sure.
And but Mr. Fuller's book, it just lays down how to deal with racism in America. And it's an individual concept. It's something, I mean, it's not necessarily a unity thing, but it's more of how to deal with personally.
Right.
And it's a great book, and it's a great reference. I read it every now and then just to kind of make sure, am I following the code, as some people call it, and also am I doing my best to produce justice, because part of my goal is to help people to produce justice.
Very good, very good. I had an opportunity to meet her. We were talking about that earlier. I know you're jealous.
I envy you. I envy you.
In fact, it was on Albany State's campus. She came and spoke here a few years ago. Yeah, we'll have to get you in the network and invite you to a lot of the lectures that we have here. But she is a very, well, I guess I shouldn't say surprisingly, but I was pleased. Because she's such a brilliant woman, she's also a very humble woman. Very, very ageless. She looks fabulous.
She does.
And I think she's in her 70s now.
Does she still wear the black leather coat? She has it's like a trademark of hers.
I don't know that she has it on. Maybe the Southwest Georgia weather stopped her.
Probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
No.
And I don't recall I think she had on red that day, because I had on red, so we were just in sync, so I was in awe over that. But such a brilliant mind, and what I too love about that book is that she shares and dispenses the reality that racism permeates all different facets of life.
That's right.
And it has a psychological impact on us, whether we realize it or not.
Right.
So to become conscious of it helps us to kind of navigate these waters and to have better dealings with one another.
Yeah, Mr. Fuller calls it the 9 areas of human activity: economics, education, entertainment, I want to say labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war.
Everything.
Yes.
Absolutely everything. Yeah, she's a phenomenal woman. And I don't have that in my library, so I'll have to get his book.
Yes, ma'am.
I will definitely get that. And it also reminds me of Naeem Akbar's book, The Psychological Changes of Slavery.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of
ma'am.
reminiscent of that.
Yes,
Yeah, so a very learned man. Obviously, and that's important and certainly in alignment with your profession.
Yes,
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Well, still married. No. Maybe still practicing law. People always ask me, do I want to seek higher office, or do I want to run for judge or something? And I don't really think about those things.
Okay.
I love what I do. Sometimes it can be frustrating, but you can't give up, you can't quit. But next 5 years, just practicing law and continuing to help people produce justice.
Very good. I can't think of a better note to end on. We look forward to seeing that continuation and certainly your role. You could have gone anywhere, but you chose to come back home.
Yes, ma'am.
And so we're proud of that, and certainly pleased. And let's clear something up. You said earlier about you're the black sheep of the family. Now, your brother and your dad are very noted.
Two brothers.
Did your other brother also pursue the ministry?
Yeah,
or?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I have two brothers that are in the ministry, and you probably know my other brother, Lorenzo Hurd.
That's right. That's right. You're absolutely right.
A proud Albany State alum.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's done some great things. We are very indeed proud of. That's right. You're absolutely right. I didn't forget about that for a moment. So yes, so those three fine gentlemen pursued the ministry, but this is your ministry.
I like that.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, so many people find themselves in need, and a testament of that is when you just said that you had a case pro bono. You were able to help a young man who may not have necessarily been able to afford your services, but certainly in need of that.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
yes, the Creator, defines our own ministries. So congratulations, continued success.
Thank you.
And thank you for again deciding to stay in this community and make a difference. It's needed.
Absolutely.
And so we certainly applaud and appreciate that. All is forgiven that you did not pursue Albany State University for undergrad. You went to Howard, but those are two fine institutions.
Indeed.
So we're so proud. And the message that we always want to convey, particularly when I highlight individuals who have pursued higher ed and attribute their success to it, is that just get the degree. Just get the degree. That's the important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Know that you're always welcome back to
Thank
Realizing
you.
Potential. It was a pleasure having you.
No, thanks for having me. I'm very honored.
Oh, thank you.
And you do a lot of great work in the community as well.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you. Viewers, thank you for joining me for this edition of Realizing Potential. I'm Wendy Wilson, and I will see you next time.